Welcome back to wook+. We got the whole crew here tonight. Plus, we are joined by Skinny and JW from Stummy Down Podcast. What's up, guys?
What's up, man? How are you guys? Thanks for having us on, man.
Yeah, we're
Awesome.
excited to be back with Liv
Yeah.
and happy to have you guys here for the first night back after a crazy tour. So, lots to talk
definitely
about.
appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. Tour was great.
Awesome. So I got a little bit of a set list. Normally we were gonna have it up on the screen, but with the 6 spot, it got a little bit congested. So I'm just
Six pack. Maybe you should call us a six
Oh,
pack.
the 6. We're gonna see how this goes.
I don't have one.
Lots going on though. We had a crazy fish tour. We're gonna tier a little bit later. We had the anniversary of Jerry passing. We have the Ghee and Chris Myers. But first, T and Llama this past weekend, right? That was just this past weekend. This has been a crazy couple of weeks. But this past weekend, you guys caught Taper's Choice out in LA for Choice Fest. And I wanted to hear how it went. I haven't really gotten to talk to you guys about it. It sounded like a pretty good show.
Yeah, it was a good time. The whole day was actually really good. They had 4 other bands, Llama, 5 other bands. I can't remember at this point. 5 bands. I think we only caught 4 of them though. We got there a little late, but they progressively they started really mellow. But they were all really good, really interesting music. That's one thing I always love about festivals, even a small one like that. You get to hear different bands, different music that you haven't really always heard or listened to, and kind of get a new appreciation for, who they are and what they are. And I think all the bands were very well curated by Taper's Choice through either friendships or whatever they knew. So it was very cool. There was one band that was like an all jazz kind of ensemble, basically like something you'd hear in New Orleans at a jazz bar. They had an oboe player and like all this. It was really cool. Like something you don't see
jazz
very
oboe
often.
is the best.
Yeah, on stage with like sheet music, and they were actually sitting next to us for a while. And we were like, "Oh, I think this is a band," because they had like stands and like sheet music, and we were like, "Oh, that's interesting." And
that was really that was a Brandon Eater ensemble.
Yes, yes, I'm glad.
Brandon Eater. Yep. How was DJ Aquarium Drunkard?
It was good. He kept the tune spinning. Yeah.
I like that website.
After that, jazz ensemble was kind of it turned really quick into 2 really good rock bands.
Right.
One sounded a lot like Tom Petty-ish, vibe, and then Color Green was after them, and those guys fucking jammed. Like I said, turned on. Like big fan. Like they gained a fan definitely out of playing that one, and then. Taper's Choice took the stage, and I can let Llama talk a little bit about it too, but I thought that was one of their best shows. I mean, they sounded incredible. It was a lot of fun. Llama, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they took it to a new level. I mean, just the jams really went out there. I think the Lilac Palace, they found some new space in that. And for those who don't know, like they played, their set list was Choice Fest 1 set list played backwards.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and then they finished with a cover of Tame Impala's It Feels Like We Only Go Backwards. And so the space they found playing, they Born to Burst and Avery Bubble usually is swapped. So Avery Bubble is first and it goes into Born to Burst. So playing it backwards, I think, gave them a new way to kind of explore that song. And they took it to new spaces, which is really interesting.
That's a really interesting idea.
You're lucky you didn't get Numberline there at the end.
Well, it's funny you say that. I have 2 quick stories I want to share. One was the band actually jammed so much that they were running out of time at the end of the show to wrap up the gag. And they were like, oh, crap, we only have like 9 minutes left. We got to get a Donor and the Tame Impala song in there to make sure we close the loop on the gag. So, which to Llama's point, they really expanded some of the jams and some of those songs, which was fucking awesome. Like they really got far. And then the set list, I got to share this story. It was really funny. After the show, we were kind of talking with the band, and they were like, first of all, right after the show, Llama came up to me and he's like, did you get the gag? And I was like, no, what are you talking? Because I wasn't really paying attention to the set list. I was kind of filming, and like I was working with Worth Rat Joe on the audio, so we were kind of working, so to speak, and not really paying a whole lot of attention to the set list, just kind of listening. And he's like, yeah, they played last year's show backwards with the Tame Impala cover after. And I was like, only you would like really get that. Like, you kidding me? And then of course we're talking to the band afterwards, and they're like, did anybody get it? And they were joking. They're like, when we set this up, we figured there might be one person in the crowd that would get it, and sure enough, he got it. Referring to Llama, and it was really funny to see them like kind of expect him to get it, and he did get it. So it was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was a great time for sure.
It was, and we even got a little bit. I'm going to play this quick clip here, but if you listen carefully, we got a little shout out from the band at the end of the show.
Thanks so much. That's it. We don't have time for an encore or anything like that. Not like you asked for one. We love you. We're Taper's Choice. Thanks for coming out all day. This has been so great. Thank you, Warp Rat Joe. Thank you, Wook+. Thank you, Blues for Solo. Thank you, Trick Photography. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, everybody. We love you.
Man.
I mean,
Cool.
Love
That's so
that.
cool.
Yeah,
we've
yeah.
made it, right? Like we're
Yeah, I
somebody
think
now.
so.
So that was going. And one other thing I want to bring up really quick is they thanked Trick Photography, who I think did the lighting and the lights.
Liquid Lights.
Liquid Lights were the people that did the lights, and
Oh, that's
They-
cool. I saw that.
spun these like the liquid on like 4 or 5 projectors they had set up, and they
Old
they were
school.
doing it live right next to me as I was filming with the
Oh,
other
wow.
camera, and watching them do it was really, really cool, and it really gave that acid trippy look across the stage and all that stuff. And so they kind of upped their game with that, and they decorated the stage a little bit more, so the lighting was a little bit different, but that was a really cool new thing they added to the show. First time they'd done that, and it looked really awesome. So to see them kind of stepping up their game a little bit too is really cool to see. So
Oh, that's
a good
sick.
time.
So did you guys get the footage and stuff you need? We're gonna be doing something with that, hopefully.
We are. I'm still waiting for Wharf Rat Joe to get me the audio and his camera footage. But yes, we had 3 cameras rolling, and we'll go ahead and put together another full Choice Fest show for everybody to watch who didn't get to see it. And of course, the audio will be posted on archives soon. But highly recommend it. And those of you on the East Coast in New York and Boston and those places where the tour is coming, get your tickets. Go see them. They're like, I can't imagine the multi-night run, how good they're going to sound by midway, by the end of that thing too. It's going to be fantastic. So go see them if they're in your neck of the woods.
T, are they playing like south of that, like Baltimore, DC area? Do you know? Or you don't know?
They are
Yeah,
playing.
Philly.
Yeah, I
Philly?
think they're Philly. Yeah, I know it's
That's a local show.
6
Yeah,
run or so.
Philly's easy. Philly's easy.
T, I have to tell you, like, I'm really disappointed. I was out at Peach Festival and I meant to catch them and I didn't. And I was like, if I say that, T's probably gonna be like, you're a dick.
I get it. The festivals are hard, man. Like, I know they're playing
Yeah.
Outside Lands this weekend, and festivals are tough. I mean, it's
They
cool. Like
are.
I said, they're one of those bands that, if you're there and you can kind of wander in and catch them, it's one of those things that you're like, oh, I like these guys. But
Right.
it's much better to try and catch them at their own show or playing at the small bar or whatever. So I understand it's tough. It's
Yeah,
tough. But if you're-
that's where I get Spider-Man. Like I get caught in a web of the outside like bar.
Exactly, and it's tough. I mean, it is tough. It's not like
Yeah.
it's difficult. But if you're around in that East Coast, you East Coasters get your Taper's Choice tour now. So I highly recommend catching. I'm trying to look at the dates right now if I can get it really quick. But
September 15th at Brooklyn is when it starts.
Of course,
yeah,
Mama
and
knows.
then it's Boston, Burlington, Providence, Rhode Island, Philly, and then the Woodist Festival
Woodist.
back in New York.
Woodist.
Yeah, so a couple shows in Brooklyn, then a couple shows in Massachusetts, Vermont,
The
Rhode
Northeast.
Island.
That's what you call the
Yeah,
Northeast.
The high Northeast. Yeah,
High Northeast,
yeah. But they're playing Nectars, which should be a fun
Mm.
show. So that'll be cool.
that'll be
and
definitely
Oh.
yeah, I'm definitely trying to put that together and hopefully get out there for some of those shows, if not all the tour. So we'll see if that works out. But yeah,
Sweet.
very fun time, very good. And Llama stayed here, slept in my guest room. It was very fun having him here with us. We had a
Yes.
quick weekend, ate a bunch of tacos, saw some good music. It was a fun time.
It's an awesome
Yes,
journey.
Scott. No Connecticut, Scott. They heard about Connecticut. They heard about the pizza, and they were like, "Nah."
All right, well, I think let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about did you guys see that clip on Osiris with Mike Gordon talking about how the band composes their set list and if they catch any social media?
They watch wook+, apparently.
Well, I think that is a fact at
Guaranteed.
this point, right? Here I could play that actually. Let me
Right.
Oh,
Osiris-
Osiris,
fuck it up.
Osiris is going to give us permission.
yeah. Why not?
Why not?
Media.
Sure.
But plus his daughter Bella is
You hear that?
a fan, and she has friends, and he might check in with her or other people that just are kind of like in the know about what do people want to. It's just very thoughtfully crafted, even though it's going to be veered from. Sometimes there are efforts to take a song like such and such song is always the set closer, or such and such song is always a set 2 song. Mm-hmm. Set 2s are a little bit more dreamy, adventurous, fewer songs, longer jams, a little bit. Now the set 1s are pretty friggin' loose as well these days. But anyway,
sometimes.
and he'll mix that up. Say, well, this is a set closer song. Let's open with it. Or this is a. I really only know this experience from my own band where I do it and I check in with Scott on it. But the set wants to have a certain arc, but.
So the first question I have is I want to know which one of you in chat is a burner account.
And also, I want to know what he said, because I try to follow his logic and it's really difficult because he puts it out there in the ether that they do, but we veer from that. And I'm like, once you start,
he was like, oh, I shouldn't have said that.
He was going to
Like,
name a
wait,
specific song. He was about to name a specific song. And then he was like, we would do maybe something in the second set. I felt like he was about to name something specific, and then he stopped himself and just went super generic there. So
wouldn't it be funnier if he said those fucking guys on wook+ are always bitching about to me
Those olds always complaining about shit. Well, that's what I thought he was going to do, was spoil who their sources were. I mean, he threw Bella out there, but Bella's not the one that's necessarily saying, hey, on Twitter, they said you haven't played this song for 15 years in this venue, so you should do that, type things. I think that comes from a little bit more in-depth,
right, people
or whoever who's feeding him those things. So I want to know who those real sources are that's getting that stuff back to them.
I find it interesting that he's actually paying attention to social media, though, because I feel like after the breakup and that whole the Mindcliff thing where Trey was super sensitive to critiques and criticism, and there was a phase where they wouldn't talk about the shows after the shows, and they wouldn't read any criticism. And I mean, let's be honest, what we do is mild, but compared to what you see on Twitter and stuff, but people are brutal right on social media. I'm kind of surprised that they're even in tune with it at all, because
what
we do so. They do so much on it now, though. Mike posts the videos all the time now of him playing the bass, and Trey does the "What are you up to?" or "What are you doing?" and does those videos. So I feel like they've kind of
they don't have somebody to do that for them.
Media.
I don't feel like they're posting that off their phone. I think they have somebody that's films.
I mean, Trey is filming that stuff because he's always commenting on what a bad cameraman he is, and he's always narrating himself through it and shit. So I mean, he's definitely shooting those. And I mean, obviously, Mike's having somebody film him because he's doing all this stuff with his hands, so he's not filming it. But they're doing it, and they're engaging with fans through social, so they're obviously more aware of what other people are posting about them too, because they're on it. So,
Kev, what were you?
They might
say?
see. No, go ahead, Kevin. No, please.
Kevin's
been waiting patiently.
He's been so patient.
No, go ahead.
Keep cutting him off every time he goes to talk.
We aren't there anymore, so just go ahead.
I was simply going to say, if Bella is the linchpin to the feedback on social media, or whatever she's seeing, I'm sure that for the most part, her page is also going to be curated based on the things that she follows. And then is she also, from what I've seen, and I think I follow her on maybe Instagram or something like that, it seems like she's always on the floor, at least at the indoor shows. But so is she hearing from people that are around her that are like, oh, that's Bella Anastasio, and let's go tell her that her dad needs to play this?
She will
and
now, after
right.
this.
or people in their crew just talking really loudly next to her.
Right, and then
it'd be great if
she
played."
she overhears it, or so I think that where there's a lot of void of information, we're kind of filling in some gaps here, but I don't necessarily think the band really gives a fuck what we think. You know, I mean, honestly, they're going to play what they want to play and what feels good to them at the moment. And, you know, maybe I think some of the statistics and stuff they might not be aware of just because they play so much music and they, you know, they've played so much, they've probably forgotten so much too, right? So I think being aware that they never played X song in X city in 23 years, you know, those are fun things that the band does to engage with the crowd. But you know, I don't think they're necessarily living and dying by the feedback that some people on Twitter are
I think there's two different things going on with that though, because I remember I was talking to Benji earlier this tour, and he was talking about how Shapiro hands the band a set of venue notes at the start of, you know, the before sound check for every show that has like, last time you were here you didn't play this, that kind of stuff, and like special anniversaries for the venue and like that kind of interesting set list stuff. I think they actually do get notes internally for that, but like I think that's more specific to the, you know, the gaps for the tour and for the venue. I don't think that's like the t-shirt guy or what's going viral on social media and like what we're all talking about. So I think what Mike is really, you know, is alluding to is the feedback and influence coming in through social media. But I think there is some level of attention that they put internally. Whether or not they like make all their decisions off of it, you know, I think it's probably more rare than not. But I think there is, at least they're aware of some of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I mean,
that.
they're always going to hear the
Yeah.
noise, right?
I agree with
They're
that.
going to hear some of the noise. I think it's going to get to them in some regard, just because they're out there, you know. But you know, I feel like they are engaging with fans that way. But I don't know. I don't necessarily know if, like, you know, they're changing their set lists because of you know, a comment that maybe Bella overheard. Maybe they are. I don't know. I don't know any of them.
Somebody told him about the shirt. Somebody told him about the Yem shirt.
Yeah.
And I mean, they do run into people, you know, at places. And what was it, the Shade story where that girl asked, you know, oh, I haven't played Shade in forever, and then they busted Shade back out. So it's like they do listen to some feedback or some things from fans. And I don't know, isn't it more fun to kind of hear those kind of things and know, oh, hey, because I'm sure they don't really think about, oh, we haven't played this song in X amount of years in this venue. Like, it's been 20 years since we played Yem here. They probably don't think about that. But then when somebody tells them, they're like, oh, shit, we should probably play Yem here tonight then,
Yeah.
you know, or something like that.
Right.
So,
Well,
yeah, I mean, we've had guests on our show that have touched that kind of, I guess, response from the fans. I mean, the one that sticks out is Jake Jolivet, the Fox producer, who's actually turned out to be a friend of ours, JW and I. He's a great dude. And he had gotten response from Trey, hearing him first putting that stuff in like 2017. So like, yeah, I agree with Tim saying, and UT, like, there is a certain amount of it. I don't think it's not all out there where maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
I think you know what you're talking about, Skinny. You know what I'm getting the sense of, and this is just my speculation. I haven't heard anything and like specific or anyone close to the band, but it feels like to me that they're trying more and more as they get older and as time goes by to connect with the fans on a different level. And I think there's always been the connection in like the spiritual, you know, like kumbaya sense of like, oh, you feed us energy in the show and we feed you music. Like, that's always been part of it, right? Ever since they're at Nectar's.
Right.
But now I think, like, when he said at the end of MSG, at the end of that run of like, we love you more than you love us, and like all these things trying to connect through social media and like picking up these cues, whether it's the t-shirt or the signs. I think it's just like after COVID and everything, they have a new appreciation for the dynamic between the band and the fans, and they're just continuing to try to connect with us, which is really hard at that level when, you know, it's them. Like, I feel like a band like Taper's Choice right now is a benefit because you can like really actually connect in a bar with but they're doing it. PHiSH is doing it the only way they can, you know, on these big strokes, which is awesome. It's great that they're still doing that. I feel like
PHiSH could play a bar.
oh shit.
I would like to be there.
Fish
night
does
zero.
every time I get control of the jukebox, or my wife rather.
Well, while we're on the fish topic, I wanted to bring in another recent debate or conversation. And Kev, I want you to start this conversation because you and I really went head to head on this. The Ghee Forget debate. So, how much of that song have we come to a consensus on this? How much of that tweezer was actually Ghee Forget, and what actually is Ghee Forget? Is there a proper song and melody that makes up Ghee Forget? And who makes these decisions?
They actually played the song once. I can't think of the date, October 1st sometime, where they actually played a song that was Ghee Forget. I think what happened at MSG is they sang the lyrics over a 32-minute tweezer. But the way Fish does things is if they start singing a song and then a jam comes after it, it's always that song's jam, no matter what it is. So
yeah, but
I think
there was a noticeable change when they started singing. So whether or not that's a consistent version of the song is one thing, but it wasn't like they were doing the same jam and just sang over it. Like they switched at that point.
I think Live Fish had it right in the first place, saying it was a 17-40-minute Ghee Forget.
Dude, no. If somebody put a gun to my head and said tweezer or Ghee Forget, tweezer or Ghee Forget, I'm dead.
I think if people appreciated and respected drummers more, the 8-minute mark would have held up, because that was when there was a noticeable shift back into tweezer from the new jam. But I think that the fact that there's not really a clean melody and rhythm, I don't know, like a chord structure, I don't think there is. I mean, maybe somebody that has better, theory experience or perfect.
Any music theorists out there?
Any of you theorists can point this out to me, but I don't like. There was a specific chord structure in this version, but it was different than the previous version of it. So I'm lost as to what the fuck's going on.
But my whole point is, if you want to be consistent and it isn't just an arbitrary thing, what is a jam and what jam belongs to what song, then you have to say they started Ghee Forget and 17 some minutes later they went back into the tweezer theme. So that block must
8 minutes later they went back into tweezer. That was my point. The drummer did, right. And then so if Mike started playing the tweezer bass line, would you say they went back into tweezer?
Probably, yes.
And if Paige started playing the tweezer piano part, would you? And if Trey started playing the tweezer, so why the fuck is it not going back into tweezer when?
Because he's the drummer, exactly. He doesn't count.
I felt for him in that moment too, because if you listen to it, he does this gigantic tom fill to try to bring the whole band back in it, and the rest of them were like, "Nah, Fish, fuck you. We're still doing this." They left him hanging so hard.
All right. Maybe that's why, because they left him hanging. So they didn't actually go into it until Trey said, "Now it's time." And John was like, "Sure, Trey, whatever you need, man. I got you.
Just keep the band together. I don't want to go back home. Family life's a little fucked up right now."
May I point out that Kevin called him John, so we know where your opinion lies, apparently.
No, I don't want to be like the stat guy, but I pulled up the history of Ghee Forget on Fishnet, and it is an undiscernible thing that they created at the Rhombus, and it's a song pun, and it has always either been performed over improvisation or its lyric has been quoted over another Fish Songs jam, which is what Kevin said earlier. So, I mean, look, I don't think...
If you look at the times played, they break up quoted versus played. Who made that decision? That's the weird part.
That's arbitrary.
Well,
and capricious.
Capricious. That's a great word. Thank you.
The overlords made that decision. I'm not questioned.
Well, look, but here's the thing, because the decision had been made that it was a 17-minute Ghee Forget, and then they unmade the decision and made it a minute 49 and a 22-minute or whatever it ended up being tweezer. I mean, honestly, come on, it's tweezer.
It was. Well, I mean, I think we all agree.
that's what-
I think I don't know why Kevin and I'm not a musician, so I can't talk like chord progression or like they started it
I'm
in the
not
chord
talking-
of E and then left it and then came back to it. But like, what on earth makes you think that the band
I'm
played
talking
17 minutes of this tune?
I tell you what, if it was 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and I had taped that show and I brought my dad home, dumped it on the computer and was splitting it up, I would have tracked when they started singing Guy Forget, and I would have tracked again when Tweezer started again. That's how I would have.
You would have been wrong.
So let me say this, just from listening to Taper's choice things, Tapers are often fucking wrong when it comes to dropping songs.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
We can attest to that. Yes, exactly.
We love you, but we don't expect perfection.
I would like to have been in that council of the elders meeting though, when they got back together and decided that they were going to change the track listing back to
Right.
Oh, we can't have it at 17 minutes. Like who?
I don't.
Did they get on a Zoom call like this and we're like, okay, all of those in favor of, and kind of had a debate.
It's party time part 2. Honestly,
Yeah, really.
Party time 2.0.
I think every conversation starts with like, "Tell me more, nerd."
See, you're 100% right, though. I don't want to meet the guy that made the 17-minute decision. I want to make the guy that had the pulled. Be like, this is wrong. Change it.
Can you send a shout out to the former Woody? He's upset that we aren't reading the chat apparently.
Oh, sorry, Scoot. There's a lot going on. We have a 6-pack tonight. Jesus.
We got Budweiser going on, Scott.
Scott, you cheap motherfucker, hit us with the super thanks. Then it'll pop it up on my screen. You want us to read your comments? Put 99 cents on a super chat. God damn.
That's funny.
Oh, very. All right. So, what do you want to talk about? Chris Myers or Robbie Robertson? Those are the next
Myers.
2. All right. So, Chris Myers is out for what? Rotator cuff
surgery
for a year.
Well, they moved Brooklyn Bowl. They moved the UM show, the whatever they call that thing, to next April. It's called Bowl. I almost called it Brooklyn Bowl. It's called Bowl, where they do the whole interactive thing with people texting and they play jams and stuff like that. Whoa, what happened?
I don't know. I'll bring it back on when he shows up.
So they moved that from October to next April, and they said they moved because they couldn't do it without Chris. Obviously, the chemistry there. So by next April, he should be back. But what we got going on is for the rest of this year, they're not stopping or anything. And they have Dwayne Trucks from Widespread playing with them, Ben from Goose, the guy from Big Gigantic, and Jason Bonham sitting in on some. And I was thinking about this. Joel had tweeted something about it, and I threw out the name Nikki Gillespie, who plays with the Nth Power. She's the drummer for the Nth Power and for Punkadelic with Mike Dillon. I think she would tear it up with them. But I guess, do any of you guys have thoughts about somebody you'd want to put into drums with UM?
Animal.
Animal beat.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be super interesting to see how these drummers hold up, because I like most of those drummers, all of them really, but the way Umphrey plays and like how tight their songs are and the drumming is and how exceptional it is, I don't know. And I mean, the Goose fans are gonna kill me for this, but I don't know if Ben can hang, right? Like, it's gonna be. Let me put it this way: I'm gonna either hear those shows and have a new appreciation for Ben, or have my thoughts confirmed. Because my thought right now is that he's not gonna be able to keep up and play a half, of what Chris can do with Umphrey. And I mean, I know that's unfair because it's like not his band, but I just feel like that's just such a technically proficient.
Maybe Ben's a better rock and roll drummer than we know, because what Goose isn't necessarily that straight ahead driving, thing.
Right. And then that would be where it actually works in his benefit, like because of the way they write their songs. And I'm sure Rick has like, a little bit of control over the parts.
They need Stanton more. I mean, he played with Corrosion of Conformity. I know he can handle the heavy, who
they should get and would never do it. But Larnell Lewis, the drummer for Snarky Puppy, is probably the best or one of the best modern drummers. Like,
I think that drummer is. I think that person is not going to be on the Snarky Puppy tour coming up, because Nikki Gillespie told me she was going to be playing with them. So
They have
he's
multiple
out for
drummers
some
with
reason.
I think, but yeah. Well, maybe he's gonna show up with Umphrey's. That would be dope.
I want to throw
Shuffling
out another name, Charlie Hall from the War on Drugs.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it would be interesting because they're a rock band and their tunes, while composed, get a little spacey, get a little jammy. I'd like to see what he had with the freedom to jam. I think he could hang.
I think he could definitely handle the composed parts really well too. I think some of the way Umphrey jams might. That's the hard part too. Is you jamming, no matter how good or bad you are, like there's a chemistry and a comfortability that you need with each other. And I feel like when you have people sit in for these short stints, sometimes it impedes the jamming. I mean, other times it could be invigorating, but I don't know.
We shall see. You guys got any thoughts?
No.
I knew from beforehand you guys probably weren't as big into Umphrey's as I was. So
Hey, I've been to a couple Umphrey shows, man. The light show is awesome, and it's a entertaining.
I like the Iron Maiden Allman Brothers mashup sound they get sometimes when it's just the dual guitars just going off for 10
I don't know. I
minutes.
just can't tell one show from the next. They're just it just kind of sounds all the same to me. No offense to anybody that's
No,
a
it's
fan.
cool. I get that.
I mean,
We're gonna piss off every fan base tonight, just slowly, one by one.
Sorry,
Guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Our numbers are just.
I do not know what I'm talking about.
All right, so let's turn to something we can all agree on
Yeah, let's
because
keep moving on it.
Robbie Robertson left us. It broke my heart. When I was 14 years old, I used to climb out my window, sit on the roof, and listen to music from Big Pink and watch the sunset. And I cried a few tears, and it had to happen today on the day Jerry died. It's like, what the hell? Festival Express every year from now on.
It's August 9th is a crazy day of deaths. It's the Manson murder day.
Yes.
It's Bernie Mac died today. Frank Gifford died today. Like there's a lot of deaths that happen on this day.
Frank Gifford, you wouldn't have.
It's kind of an odd day of death. Like it's really weird. And the funny thing is like, since Jerry died, it kind of overshadows the Manson murders. You don't really hear about them anymore, but that used to be such a huge thing that you always hear about every August 9th.
Yeah,
it was always crazy, especially us olders growing up. Like that's something I always remember like that day. So
what, the day Jerry died?
No, the day the Manson murders happened.
Oh. I was gonna say we could talk about where you were the day the Manson murders happened.
Well, I wasn't born yet.
We were born yet for that, but it was just always one of those things.
It was a big deal for years and years because Manson was always on television and.
Right, they would play Helter Skelter every year. That movie Helter Skelter that tracked the story.
Right.
I mean, Kev was alive. He's like 180 or something.
I was not alive for them. I was not alive for the Manson murders, dude.
I think Kev was part of the family.
Sexy Sadie was my mother. Okay, all right. I'll give it to you now.
Who played you in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Gregory Hines was the other one. Yes, correct. Yeah.
That man could dance.
But yeah, I mean, Robbie Robertson, I kind of said this at our thing. I was surprised that he collaborated so much with Martin Scorsese after The Last Waltz. Like, apparently he's done the music on pretty much every Marty film, including the new one coming out, whatever the Flower Moon one that's coming out. He just did all the music on that one too. So I was shocked to hear that. I always thought he was kind of a dick. Kevin and I talked about that before with some of the things he did to leave on with the songwriting things and this and that, but
well, and they didn't talk for like
a
they
while.
Didn't do anything for like until Helm was like on death's door, and then they
and then
he reunited. Like I mean, a lot of great music. Obviously he's a legend, so R.I.P.
Yeah.
Holy shit, a lot of people died on E-Done.
Yeah, Lorimo. Yep, exactly. Yeah.
We're just getting everybody feeling really happy and chipper for our tearing conversation.
Bring that right up.
Oh my god, dude!
We're developing excitement.
Yeah, we should probably get into that soon. But I mean, I guess what else?
We got the Jerry Garcia. Just anybody who was around when Jerry died. Do you remember where you were when it happened? When you heard, even if you weren't a fan, do you remember hearing about it?
Yeah, there was a local station, 98 Rock, and I had one of the old stereos in this Buick that I had where you hit the button for it to go to the different station. It wasn't even a dial. And I just had it on 98 Rock just because they'll play something that I can drive back from school. And sure enough, they came on, but it was after I think I turned it on and they were playing something popular, either like Casey Jones or something, obviously that you would recognize as the Grateful Dead. And then they were like, Jerry Garcia passes away at the age of 53. And then they played another song. And I just remember being like, I can't believe this. And, I'm the same age, Kevin, I think you are. I'm the same age. I was telling Josh today, I just texted him, as he was when he passed. And that was like 28 years ago. And Jerry looked like he was 96.
I'm a year younger. I'm a year younger, but yeah, definitely.
Heroin and diabetes have a tendency to do that.
That's rough.
I got a phone call. I got a phone call 10 o'clock that morning. It was Wednesday morning. Someone woke me up, and this woman, Stephanie, a really dear friend of mine, I knew she wasn't going to lie to me. I knew it wasn't one of my buddies messing with me. Wait, let's wake him up and tell him Jerry died, And I hung up the phone and I sat there and cried. I think I threw on He's Gone was the first song that I threw on. Obvious choice, and we ended up that night in Baltimore, down by the Washington Monument in Baltimore, not the one in DC, and all these heads, guitars out, everybody just smoking weed. The cops were just like, let them drink their beer and smoke their weed and cry about their guy.
I went to a party that night, and guys were wearing, that I knew, that I'd actually, even a couple of them went on tour with. I didn't think of it. They were wearing like black armbands. I was like, Jesus Christ. It was a serious deal. I mean, I will tell you, it was
Supreme Leader has died.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck are we gonna do now?
Yeah, it was. I was out in LA, and my mom, actually, I woke up late and my mom kind of told me it had happened. I didn't really believe it at first, and then it was all over the news. And that night they had announced out here that they were going to do like a big celebration at Griffith Park. And I was like, maybe I'll go, maybe I won't. And then the closer it got to the time, I was like, yeah, I should probably go. Like, it just was a weird day. So you're like, there wasn't really anybody to talk to. Like, the internet wasn't really around, like cell phones, like nothing really existed yet. So you kind of didn't have anybody to talk to, like I was just hanging out with my parents at my aunt's house on summer vacation. So I was like, well, fuck, I'm going to go over to Griffith Park and hang out with a bunch of heads and see what's going on. So I went over there, and it was nice because I got a little bit of closure. Like, you got to hang out with your tribe and kind of see everybody, like there was a drum circle, like Kev was saying, there was like, there was vending going on. People were selling like candles and like this stuff, and it was just a big.
People already had the shirts off.
Totally, like they were already selling shit. It was like a giant shakedown mixed with like a mourning ceremony type thing. And to Kev's point, like the cops were very laid back with it, as long as anybody wasn't, fighting, which nobody really was. It was just sort of a memoriam celebration type thing, but it provided that closure. Like, it was nice to be around your people and like, oh, there are all these people here hugging and crying and going through the same kind of range of emotions that we all kind of were at that time. So it was nice. And then drove back home, and then it kind of, the more it happened, like the more you're like reflecting on things and like, oh shit, we're never going to see a show again. Like, I was lucky enough to see the Vegas shows in 95 and go to Chicago for those, what turned out to be the final shows. So I got to see those. But then when the reality hits you that that's the last shows you're ever going to see of that band, it was kind of fuck. Like,
I got tickets in the mail. I got tickets in the mail a couple weeks later for fall tour.
I think I saw you talk about that before.
That's crazy. And I mean, I will say one thing too on that, like those of us that went to shows, there never was anything, and there never ever will be anything like a Dead show. And I'm not just saying like going to the show, but like actually being in the parking lot, getting in line and lining up to go in. That whole feeling, like it's not the same with PHiSH. It's not the same with any other band. It was just one of those moments that was like, there's no place on earth I'd rather be right now than right here in this moment, getting ready to go in and see the Dead. And
amen to
that. It was just a thing, and hang on, Kev. And it was like the closest thing we got to that was Fare Thee Well, was similar to that feeling. Like I felt that again going into that. Like it was just, there was a vibe about that music and that band. And again, like I've never felt that with any other band ever. And I don't know, maybe some people get that with PHiSH, but it's a different crowd. It's a different vibe. It's a different feeling completely. And it was just one of those unique things that happen. What, Kev? What's up? What's your question?
I forgot.
Yeah, that's what I figured. I see you noodling with something on the desk, and
He forgot.
Can't forget.
I'll say this just real quick, because I was really like entry level Grateful Dead fan when Jerry died. I just finished senior year. I was about to go to college, and that summer I had really started listening to just a lot of different music. I was Van Halen, Metallica, kind of rock and roll, early 90s, late 80s was really kind of where
Are you saying Van Hagar?
I liked all of it, Kevin. I liked all of it. There was no bad Van Halen to me. But anyway, like I was like super stoked. I started to learn the basics, trucking, Casey Jones, Terrapin Station, stuff like that. And then I remember I was working that day, and I worked on like a beach town with a bunch of hippies. And one of them was like, dude, Jerry Garcia died. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I just started listening to the Grateful Dead. And so then,
what an asshole! I just got into it, and then when I got in, died.
I was like, "What are you doing, man?" But when I got to college, like I completely devoured everything I could possibly find. I bought every Dick's Picks every time I went to a CD store, record shop, and and somebody made, maybe it was T, was talking about like there were like T-shirts, like literally the second week of my freshman year of college, there were upperclassmen going around our freshman dorm, knocking on the door with like Calvin and Hobbes, nothing left to do but smile, smile, smile T-shirts. And
that's some real wook shit to capitalize on that.
I mean, it was $95.
$10,
yeah.
2 sides.
Yeah.
It's a 50.
No deals.
It's a 50-50, by the way.
All right. Well, now that everybody's feeling really chipper and not combative at all, why don't we do something very divisive and tier some PHiSH shows? We're gonna do a little ranking. Everybody feel in the mood to share? I gotta share. Actually, someone on YouTube comments was like, "Hey, I really appreciate what you guys do, but why are your shows filled with your opinions?" And I was thinking about what the fuck else would they be filled with? So I guess I'll give a disclaimer. We're about to share a boatload of opinions, and I apologize
in advance.
I will also add that we are not into rankings on Stub Me Down, so this is a little out of our wheelhouse, but I have done the requisite.
We aren't
homework.
either, really.
I was gonna say that you're about to see. We're not really.
This is way different than normal.
Actually,
we're very flexible with them too. They move around a lot too as we go through this. So
I am gonna run a quick promo though, like a 20-second promo, and then we'll get into the ranking. Awesome.
Can I ask one quick question about that? Are you including Dick's jams?
I am. That's why it's going to be
9/4.
The day after Dick's. So the cool thing about it is, so if any of you watching, and I know you guys all are familiar, I do those brackets on Twitter. I had done them, but Elmo kind of pisses me the fuck off, and I just don't feel comfortable doing it there anymore. And luckily, YouTube has 24-hour polling abilities. So right here, if you subscribe to the channel, the polls will show up in your YouTube threads. Every day you can vote on the matchups and also support the channel. It's not complicated. You open up YouTube, you go to wook+live, and you vote for the fucking song.
Kevin, you're the one that tells people to subscribe and like.
What a
fucking I'm a subscriber, and I know all I got to do is fucking open up YouTube. Oh, come on, Kevin.
Jesus Christ.
Thank you,
He's
Brandon.
an old. He doesn't want to have to switch over anything.
I don't know who banned him, but I'm glad. I was going to say, Brandon, you might want to get out of here. We're about to rank PHiSH shows for the next half hour.
Why'd you ban? He's allowed to have his opinion.
I didn't. It was probably Llama. It's all right.
Llama's quick with the band hammer over there. He's like Thor.
The band hammer.
No, but I don't think we're supposed to say it out loud because I don't think the person sees that their comments aren't going. So if we don't acknowledge it. No, Brennan, your comments are still coming through, man.
Let's
keep talking.
This. Alabama won. Where's Alabama won?
Damn, Kev, give me a second. Jesus Christ.
Full disclosure, I can't say anything until we get to the back half of the tour, which is MSG, because I tried to not listen to any of this shit before I saw him live in the house. So I'm just going to sit here in the corner like baby.
You were supposed to just nod.
Opinions out there.
Oh, sorry. I'll
just nod.
So the way we're gonna do this is I'm gonna bring up the show and give you a quick reminder of what happened that night, like the one sentence hot take of the show, just so everybody gets their mind right, because I know it's been a long tour. And then I'm gonna go to each of, well, not each of you for each one, but like I'll throw one down the list. And then if you agree with them, cool. If you want to chime in and say how dumb the other person is, cool. Get it? Got it? Also, Dave, we're going well over a half hour. I know that the after shows we kept tight, but we're going for the long haul tonight. Oh, and chat, let us know in the chat where these should end up. So we're starting with Huntsville night 1. This one was best known for that mega fucking encore. After a really solid start to the tour, that was the meat stick and the Makasupa, then the fuck your face, the Iculus, and the character zeros. So the read your book encore, I think, was what this show really had. Kevin, let's start with you since you're at the top. Where do you have this one?
I had Oblivion as being the highlight, the debut of that, but I have this as a C.
Oh, I don't know if I agree with you, but anyone want?
Well, my thinking with the encore is, I know that everyone's won the encore, but beyond that, beyond the Oblivion, what was really special about that show?
I mean, it was a super solid, not Arkansas tour opener, so that was great. I want to put it at B, but I won't do it unilaterally unless I get support. Is everybody okay with his
look, honestly, I think that this is a cusper show, C to B, but it can't be a B because it's the first show of tour. I'm like, no offense to anybody that was there. I think it was fun. I think it was more than just a warm-up show, but it's the tour opener, and there's a lot of heat coming behind it. So.
Fair.
I think
if we were tiering tour openers, it would be like up at A, but we're not doing just tour openers. We're doing the whole tour. So maybe this is where it lands.
We were allowed to make changes as we go, right?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, so definitely.
All right, well, JW, why don't you give us your take on Huntsville night 2 then? The Sigma Jam in the first set was really noticeable, and then the Fuego in the second set. This was also the got a degree and the PhD night, if you remember that, where there were teases throughout and they did alumni blues at the end because of all the doctors in Huntsville.
Is this the show where the Mercury returned to a long jam too? That was like a 15-minute Mercury
and the free.
Yeah, but Ether Edge blows.
Worse than you.
And you know what?
I need a drink.
And honestly, so I look at this show like I don't really have anything, against the set. I put this as a 4 on my list, so that would be D on your list. Basically because, while it was cool, and there were, the Wave of Hope Fuego was cool. The Mercury Free was cool. Re-listen wise, there was a better Plasma later in tour. There's, a million Sigma Oasis to listen to. So it was a good show. Again, I think you've got the warm-up shows. I'm sorry, I don't want to call them the warm-up shows. I think that they were very, very good, what might be considered mid-tour shows that the band played to start off. But again, I look at what they've got coming after this, and
can't get too high on it then.
That Ether Edge, man, that was it.
I mean, the truth is, if Kevin's gonna put night 1 as a C, then night 2 has to be a D, because night 1 was considerably better than night 2. So
I had night 2 as a B.
Well, you're really bad at this, so I'm gonna.
The Fuego was fantastic.
The Fuego was fantastic. You're right.
I don't know.
Maybe they're close.
After listening to JW, I would say that it would probably go on C, and we could put them both together as C tier.
Fine.
Look, I will add, and not to dwell on this one show, but I will add, and I had tweeted it kind of early on, like this felt like the Encore tour, right? They did a lot of crazy stuff in the Encore, and because I'm a nerd, I had to do some stats. There were only 2 shows out of 19, right? That they had a single encore, which was MSG Night 1 and MSG 7. They had 9 shows with a double encore, and they had 7 with 3+. So they're leaving you with a pretty good taste in your mouth. I mean, Alumni Blues Letter to Jimmy Page back into Alumni Antelope Encore. I mean, that's an epic encore. I don't know if it carries this show to a higher tier.
No, I think it's where it belongs in C. Okay. Let's get into Alpharetta now. We got Georgia here. Georgia Night 1.
Georgia on my mind.
This was, in my mind, the highlight was the epic My Friend, My Friend. It was the longest My Friend ever. It came in at 15 minutes. And then the Ruby Waves, on the anniversary of the Alpine Ruby Waves, they did a 26-minute, pretty dope Ruby Waves. First set were a lot of quick hitters. Nothing that stood out. I mean, they were all played really well, but no major jams, I think, out of that first set. Who should we go to? T, you got any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, again, talking set list or talking encore wise, a Life Beyond a Dream to start the encore into a Tweezer reprise with Big Black Furry Creature from Mars. I could definitely do without the Life Beyond a Dream, but Trey's gonna like do something in that. Like it's just
that's
not
where
exactly.
It's gotta live. That's where that song should live, not in the middle of a second set.
Oh yes, but I don't even want it in an encore.
I think we skipped ahead.
Yeah.
So
we're on night one.
Sorry. Okay, I'll go back to night 1. Yeah, and this was If I Could and Possum as the encore, which I love Possum as the closer encore. As for everything else, like night, I don't know. I like the first set. I thought first set was pretty banging. The Ghost and the Ruby Waves was pretty sweet. To your point, the My Friend in the first tube is an epic way to close out a set, and it was short. Was it like a 5-song second set, 4-song second set? I'd probably put it as a B or an A. You could probably cusp it B or A.
Chad's coming in pretty strong on this one.
I had it as the one position of A, the highest A.
Yeah, I mean
the highest of high A's.
Isn't that the cusp of S?
Yeah.
I mean that's kind of where T was.
Right.
Yeah, I mean I still have it as a higher. I have it as a lower A, a cusp of B, but I could, that's fine.
I think A is fair.
Really?
You guys know how much fun this is just to even watch it? Like, I don't even have to say
hopefully a lot of fun. I mean, that is what we're going for.
I know. I'm having a great time. Fuck everybody in the chat if you're not.
Like, honestly, like My Friend carries this show, right? Like, this show is really all about the My Friend, right? There's not really anything else in here you're going back to listening to.
No, I would go back to that Ghost though. That Ghost, I mean, it was short, but it was plentiful also, I think.
And then Flew Away is a tune that I definitely have to listen to a little bit more, but I feel like it's one of those tunes where everybody's going to be like, "Oh, the jam was good." But like he tries to do a lot in that tune, and so I would maybe give this a B, but
yeah, that's why I feel like there's so many better shows down the road to come that like giving this an A, you're kind of setting yourself up for where are the better shows going to be?
So Chad, remember that I was on team chat with this.
So it's not only Kev's bad takes, but it's the chat's bad takes.
Kev's chats.
That's how you build a fan base, by the way, shitting on your chat's opinions. I don't know. I may end up moving this up or down depending on how balanced the rest gets. So let's keep it an A for now. And then if we have a lot of other A's, it'll be a low, and bump down. I think it's right at that cusp. Ironically, exactly where T put it. So good job, T.
It really took 10 minutes.
Then we go into night 2, which was sweet because it was the oldest vintage to that point, and I think one of the oldest. Night 2 and night 3 was one of the oldest vintages of the whole tour. This was a vintage of '97. This had that first big tweezer jam of tour, and this actually was a tour with several great tweezers. I actually think the Syracuse and MSG tweezers were better, but this was a really, really good version of that. What else were there? Oh, the Fluff Head was pretty good. The Set Your Soul Free jam. But
Everything's right. I think you were big on the Everything's Right that night.
Oh yeah, I usually am.
That's been particular. Anyway, I gave this guy a B.
All right.
I'm not laughing because I know. I'm just laughing.
I mean, you've got a tweezer and a hairy hood in the second set, and it always wanted it this way. That was how long?
You got that at MSG
or something.
You got that at MSG too. You got a tweezer with a hood encore in MSG.
All right, so is 2 better or worse than 1?
1 is the best out of the 3.
This is like one of my top shows of tour.
Yeah, I agree. I think the second set.
This has got to be the first S for stupendous or whatever the S stands for.
All tour, we've been saying serviceable, and you guys didn't realize that's actually the best of the best. I love you, JW, but there's no way in hell I'm putting this at S tier right now. But I will put it up.
Okay. All right.
No, I'm thinking about
why not.
I'm thinking about later on in tour and like where Syracuse and the Man and MSG get, and I think all of those top this show.
Are we limited to how many shows can go in a category?
Not at all.
All right. Touche.
See, this is my point of this one. The first night should be a B because this one should be at an A because this one was definitely, I feel like, a better show than night 1.
I feel like this was leaps and bounds better. I mean, look at the set list.
We can do that, guys. This is open.
So free.
Right. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Scott.
A mid-set Fluff Head. Everything's Right. Esther, which was technically very good. Like Trey did not flub the Esther at all. And then, sorry, I have.
No, there was a little bit of flubs though. I don't want to be the asshole, but there were a little bit of flubs.
There's always flubs.
It was not perfect, but
it was better than they had been doing it.
Right. I think the last time before this, they absolutely butchered the thing, and everybody's like, "All right, it's time to shove Esther again." And then Golgi. So I think, like, for me, and look, this is obviously, as we know, it's all subjective, but for me, this is a show where there's no dogs in the set. Everything was very well played. There's a huge jam that they back up and close with a hood. And then, Life Beyond, fine. You don't like that tune? All right. Then they give you the best 3 minutes in rock and roll and Big Black Furry Creature from Mars. I'm sorry. This has to be a tier 1. Sorry.
That second set, the whole show, to your point, other than the encore when Life Beyond a Dream, is bangers. Like there's not a lot of slowdown. And that second set is just, Riff Tweezer, Golden Age, Always Wanted This Way, Tweezer Hood. That's a fantastic second set.
I just want to point out, this is why I find it hard to believe they watch our show and get on social media. Could you imagine like Trey tuning in and we're just like, oh, you fucking missed a note on that Esther. That's a B tier. It's like, God damn.
Dude, he'd be like, that guy's skinny, hates everything we do.
All right, let's move on to night 3. This gin jam was beautiful in the beginning, and then the melt. I remember everyone talking about the melt being a huge highlight of that first set. And then the Carini and the Wickapah, actually it was the Mike's groove with the Carini, but the Carini in particular, I think was an absolutely incredible epic jam for that night. And then this ended. There was the Reba, but not Reba cover. The cover of the song that Reba covered that they covered, the night the lights went out in Georgia. Which was that?
Vicky Lawrence.
Yeah.
Vicky Lawrence is the name you were looking for.
Yes, that is the name. That is the name.
So where do you put this? Let's start with you this time.
Ooh, I think this was the best debut to date with the Well. They didn't really give us much out of it. I was very pissed off about how short the gumbo was. I remember wanting more out of it, and it was just left a bad taste in my mouth. I think this was kind of right on par with night 2, though, which I thought was better than night 1. So I would put this probably at the cusp of AB, personally. Maybe a little higher than night 1 and a little lower than night 2.
I'm being on it.
I'm just glad I caught the back end of tour.
Missing the warm-up shows. Is everybody okay with this here?
Yeah, yes, that's a good. We're one. Let's head on down to North Carolina.
See, now this is where things get interesting.
I think this is going to be the 2 easiest shows that they're. I mean, I have them both as D's, and I was at night 1 of North Carolina.
Yeah, I agree. Does anyone disagree? Speak now.
I mean, when you got the casual enlightenment, shade, drift while you're sleeping to close out a set, you're pretty much already in D territory.
Trey was trolling me. Trey reads social media, and he was trolling my ass.
You need to come out strong in that second set to make up for that, and it really didn't quite get there. The song I heard the Ocean sing wasn't bad that night.
The timbre was good. The timbre was strong.
And the Howling Susie was fun at the end. Like, that was a fun encore, but we're not judging on just an encore and type thing, so I'm fine with putting it a little lower there.
Yeah.
That's funny that you say that. I mean, I haven't even listened to these front shows at all. I will eventually, but like when a show just sometimes like fizzles, like Josh and I talk about that all the time, like it just fizzles, and then at the end they'll give you something and you kind of leave like, you know, what's going on here? And then the next one will rock. I feel that sometimes. I'm like, it's not really doing much, but
I think you get a bunch. I think honestly you get a bunch out of the first 3 songs of the second set. And then really not much else. I mean, and then the encore. Honestly,
and then the encore. Yeah.
I mean, look, Mercy, I think, was pretty widespreadly panned. I didn't really say it that way, but like widespreadly panned.
I still don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Panned spread widely.
Right. But like, I don't think anybody really wants to hear that song again. 20 years later, backwards down the number line, there's a lot of people that maybe deal with 20 years later because of the sentiment, but you know, backwards down the number line. I'm a stan. I think Tim, you are too, but like some people don't like that. The end of this set is, you know, and there's maybe a couple things in the first set, but like you're not going back and listening to Wilmington night 1 to like
now I'm going to
make dinner.
Actually, the best thing, I tell you what, the song I heard the Ocean sing is going to be in the jam bracket that Tim does. I can guarantee it because it was one of the most interesting and fun things that they did the whole tour, but it was surrounded by a sea of poop.
That's a song.
In the sea of poop. All right, let's move.
The PG version.
I think we talked way too much about Wilmington. I was kind of ready to move on. I thought it was gonna be like D, and then we're on. So let's get into Starlight, because I think this is kind of a turning point, maybe. And we start to have an upward trajectory that they maintained, I felt like, through most of the rest of the tour. Night 1 in Star Lake, there were a lot going on. One thing that stuck out to me was getting a ripping Maze and a really good Bowie in the same show, which was pretty sweet. The Sigma Jam to start the second set was also really top notch. And then
they crapped out on Fuego.
They crapped out on Fuego. It was
8 minutes.
It was a solid start to it. I think the composed part they actually played better than the previous time, but they didn't give a jam to it. Right,
no Vikings again.
And then Pillow Jets was the debut for this one, which is a very sonically interesting debut. And one of the I think one of the top half. I don't think it's the best debut, but it's on the top half of the debuts. This was a solid show, I think. I don't know if I go all the way up, but who wants to go take this one?
Wasn't this the one we talked about was the best Bowie of tour? Wasn't this the Bowie that they kind of nailed?
Yeah, it's the second time they played Bowie this tour, and I think we were saying how much it benefited from the first go through.
First one, but I think because even the one that they played later at MSG was not great, as Kevin and I talked about that night, kind of was a disaster sort of. So I think wasn't this the best? I think this was the best Bowie of tour, actually.
Yeah, and they also, the other thing I forgot to mention was they finished since that they started in Wilmington and got, so that was a cool little nod.
The stash from this show was really good. I mean, this stash was 15 minutes of just epicness in the middle of that first set. I have this actually as a B.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that myself. So I'm gonna go with and agree with you on that.
Just for the record, I have
somebody agrees with him.
Just for the record, I had it on the C side of the cusp with B.
Well, I'll
it's
tell
on
you,
the C side of the cusp with B. So
I'm just letting you. That's
you're
where
saying
I
here?
was. Yeah, that's where I had it.
All right, that's close enough.
We're starting to get into, full disclosure, the shows that I have maybe a little bit of attendance bias on. I was at both Star Lake, Philly, and then the first three MSG. So
we will completely discredit every opinion.
Please do. Absolutely. I totally have raging.
So Skinny's opinions actually matter more in this than yours, is what you're saying.
Right. I know. I didn't listen to any of this.
Exactly.
Night 2 at Star Lake was, if you remember, this was the one where they played like 1 million songs in the first set, and they were all like 5 minutes long, and it was like just rapid fire, get all the hits in. The llama was short, but just absolutely ripping. It felt like one of the faster llamas we had heard in a long time. What else?
22 minute. Everything's right.
I hadn't gotten to the second set yet, but yeah, that was an awesome way to start the second set.
To close the first.
That whole run to close the first, the Sod Again, Sparkle, Ass-Handed Sand is a fun way to close a set, as opposed to what we were just saying with the other show, where it was those other 3 terrible songs that you're like, this was an awesome fire way to close the set.
I thought of Skinny out during this show because they did a Julius and they didn't fuck with the vocals, and I was like, maybe he would like this one.
No. I fucking channeled you to like during our latest episode that we just released today, like janky. I can't do it anymore. I have to like just sit there, I guess, or that's when I take a seat or light. Either way, go ahead.
Well, we all have our songs that
This song,
I love sitting down. I love sitting down.
Yeah.
I had this guy as an A. I had Pit 2 as an A.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I was going to say Monsters was the debut for this one. I think it's the cool thing about this tour is you can almost remember each show based on the debut of that show. And Monsters is, I don't think it's going to be a major, it's not a big jam vehicle like Oblivion or The Well or some of the other ones, but it's a really, really nice song, I think.
That's a great placement too, in between most events aren't planned in 2001. I mean, like sometimes they have to really figure out where to land some of these new tunes, and sometimes they don't do it right, and sometimes they do, and it leaves a better taste in your mouth for a new song if they put it somewhere where it makes sense.
I want to know if Kev forgot his point.
Kev, only 6 minutes. I was going to say that Trey needs to give that song to Dio to sing, but Dio passed away. So,
well, you're bringing it. You're bringing the mood back up. We didn't talk enough about death.
I will say that I think JW brings up a really good point there, where it does matter sometimes where some of the new songs get introduced in a set, or how what's around them does make kind of a difference with how.
Well, yeah, like I Never Needed You like this before as the show opener kind of sucks. Although I don't know where I would want that song. I think.
Close the first set.
The next night you're not there.
Right, I was gonna say sound check, maybe. Sound check would be a great place for it.
I think the band has like now an attachment to I Never Needed You like this before, because it wasn't the first song they played after COVID. So
Arkansas.
Their first show back. So
the best opener ever.
The best opener they've ever played. But you know, that's the thing. So like I think there's these tunes that you just have to accept the band has an attachment to because of something, whether we know what it is or not. And I feel like that here, and then the Turtle in the Clouds, and then Clear Your Mind. I mean, those are all new songs aside from the Llama right there. So,
but you can't lump those with "I Never Needed You Like This Before" because Turtle in the Cloud and Clear Your Mind are
they're Halloween, right?
But they're awesome though. Like they are very great new songs. And "I Never Needed You" is not a very good song.
I Never Needed You Like This Before is a real song.
I mean, it's real though. Tim,
it's a real song.
I'm singing that to you.
Can somebody tweet Bella that we don't want to hear that anymore?
Somebody get next to Bella and drop that hint.
I mean, it's not about hot dog vendors in the dark or something. It's
what do we have this out? 3? This is a B. Is this a B?
It's what?
I think I had it as an A, like it's a low A, high B.
It's got to be an A.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's got to be an A.
I don't know if it's got to be an A, but
put it in A right now just to make Kevin feel good.
Yeah,
there you go.
I think that's good. All right, well, let's go.
We're all going to agree on this one, I think.
Oh, well, now I know that we certainly are not. Wait, what the fuck? What are my bad takes?
Thank you.
That's not true.
I've never had a bad take on this show.
That's fake news.
Doesn't look like anybody said I have any bad takes.
Can we go to the film, please?
Speak up now so I can start blocking you all.
My wife is texting me my bad takes.
All right, so night three. What were the big highlights from this? This was the Tweezer Oblivion. This, I think, was considerably better than the Alpharetta Tweezer. And honestly, maybe still, it's hard to say. I'm still doing a lot of research for this seating, but for me personally, this is the top 3 jam, I think. This little sandwich or duo.
It'll make Final 4.
Yeah, I think this is a Final 4 jam of the whole tour. And I think it might be enough to elevate the whole show for me personally. But where do you guys have it?
It's serviceable.
Did I say night 3? It's Syracuse. Holy shit!
Syracuse.
I'm sorry.
I was like, wait, where are you here?
Serviceable. All
I
the way,
I got triggered by you assholes telling me I have bad takes. And
the Kill Devil Falls, right? The Kill Devil Falls, Tom, was fantastic. I mean, it's an S all the way, man.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, what's up with everybody hating on Kill Devil Falls lately? Because I have to go back and listen to that, and I hope I can shit on some wooks that don't know what they're talking about after I hear it with my own beautiful ears. But what's the deal with Kill Devil Falls? Why do people hate on that song? A fucking song jams. You want to hear that, or I never needed to know you before I talked about this?
I don't know. I don't think
drug addiction.
I don't know that a lot of people hate it though. Like I know that like it was that in that time period where like it was fun and easy to shit on songs, right? Like that 09 number line time period when 3.0 was just getting off. But this is in that, for me, I always associate this with 46 Days. It's like a very specific type of jam vehicle where you get like a rock and roll jam out of it. And like that 09 style jam, like it was a very specific type of jam that you get out of it. And this was a really good version of it. Yeah,
there's some
I
good
think
versions of Kill Devil Falls out there.
Well, I have to listen to it because I heard this was all the rage. I mean, you know,
it had all the extra mustard on it. It had a few extra minutes in it. They like explored all the avenues. They let it breathe. Again, it's Trey allowing the band the extra 12 bars or whatever to find where he is and do the re-entry to the songs has made all the difference this tour on some of these jams. They just have landed when they came back to the theme.
Yeah,
but I think that's where some of the hate might come from sometimes on it is because you get such good ones every now and then that when you don't, you're kind of like, oh, that one kind of fell flat compared to this other one, kind of like 46 Days in that same feeling. It's like, oh, or even like No Man's, right? Like when they play a banging No Man, you're like, yes, or even Walls of the Cave. That's what I want to hear. But then when they truncate it or shorten it out, you're like, that one kind of left me unfulfilled. So
they all are similar tunes. That's a good point.
By the way, just my defense, I'm doing this kind of on the fly, and look how PHiSH did their color coding. They had all their weekends to match, and then they put Star Lake and Syracuse as the same color, and then made me look like an asshole.
Yeah, but still, they're like Bella's like, Dad, did you see Wook+ tiered all? And they
should watch it.
They had different color coding for each one of the runs.
They figured you out, man. They figured it out.
Yeah, I liked Syracuse a lot. I think this is definitely an S tier. Let's move on to Philly and the man. Yes, I think Kev is disqualified.
No.
Yes.
I think this is definitely
especially because he was
case.
spinning at the shows, as he said. He sat and he spun, so it automatically disqualifies you.
I'm not gonna tier it or give you my tier. I'll let one of you guys pick it. But the one thing I will say is that the Walls of the Cave was the low point of the entire tour as an individual moment in a song. Out of the even worse than Wilmington, there were other parts of the night that I thought were much higher than like Wilmington. So I don't think it's that low. But that song and that ending there of that first set, I think was really difficult to watch. It was tough.
I had it as a C.
Oh, so maybe you're not disqualified. Look at you, Kev, redeeming yourself.
What was wrong with the Walls of the Cave? From somebody that hasn't listened to a note of that, like you know, what happened?
Well, Trey got on tilt, which is weird to watch because he doesn't like. He'll fuck up lyrics.
Sure.
He'll flub the guitar. He'll lose a note, but you never really see him like tilted by it, right? But in Walls of the Cave, he was missing. He couldn't find the pitch, and he was kind of reaching for it, and then he forgot the words, and it was almost like he like. I don't know if it was an issue with his monitor and he couldn't hear or what was going on, but like he was off and he couldn't get back on. Like, and so that it wasn't just that he was off and he made a mistake. It was that they nearly didn't make it through the song. It felt like, and then for that song, which is usually such a powerful set closer, especially the end, the beginning's kind of, you know, hit or miss, but they didn't ever really lock back in. So it was just a very rough song. And you know what? People that were there didn't notice it was as bad as people that watched on a webcam. And I think it was his face. I think people that watched the stream and could see like the worriedness on his face and him looking over and things not locking in. I think it made it honestly a little more uncomfortable to watch.
Tim, because we talked about this when you were on our show, and I always felt like lately, and I know we've all talked about it. I've heard you guys talk about it as like this propensity to kind of change the range and pitch and of his voice and what he's doing vocally. And I always liked PHiSH because they kind of like said the lyrics as opposed to like sung the lyrics. I might sound like a complete fucking maniac right now, but like,
no, that's fair. I think.
Well, like
now
why
they're
do you
singing more,
right? Why are you like? Why is it turning into like, you know, a choir? Why
can't
we
it's Broccoli, Rob, the guy that I mean, he has a vocal coach. I think I don't know. There's been a lot of different evolutions of it, but I think around the Bowie Halloween was like around the time when he started hooking up with that new vocal coach and started proceeding, you know, feeling himself as a singer and trying
he's under the influence of Dave Matthews.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. He's got the broccoli going, but that's why he had to like. They went into that 46 days because like that Walls was just. That's why we were just talking about. That was one of those that left you very unfulfilled and kind of like, what the fuck was that? And tried to save it with the 46 days, and it was just. They have. I mean, there was messy moments in this tour for sure, and this was one of those messy moments for sure.
Well, but you got to give a shout out to The Well, though, and even the disease. The disease into The Well was a really high point of the show. I don't know if it was.
And wasn't it the cross-side chalk dust night?
It was.
That everybody complained they were short, but that had to be one of the greatest transitions I ever heard them do. They were just trained. They were a train just trying to hang on, and then they're playing another song. It was.
I think one thing that we definitely saw over the course of this tour is if there was some sort of an issue, a flub, they tripped over themselves a little bit in the first set. They came out swinging in the second set. And,
yeah, I agree.
You know, T said, you know, they tried to, you know, salvage the end of that first set with the 46 days. The Down with Disease, Well, No Men's to open set 2, I think made everybody forget about that, at least for the moment. And Beneath the Sea of Stars is a decent landing spot, I think, for the back half of the show. And then the cross-eyed chalk dust is good. Velvet Sea Fire encore, there's probably other encores you might want to see. Fire's cool, obviously. But I think while this is a good show, there are other shows that are better.
It sounds to me like we're in the low B, high C range.
That's where it belongs. That's
the most hilarious. Now I'm getting another drink before we jump in, so I have nothing to say about this one other than nodding.
All right, we'll see you in a minute. Okay, cool. So I think this is a tale of two nights that are very, very opposite ends of the spectrum for me. I think night 2 was just an absolute raging show. The Carini in the second set, I think, was probably the biggest highlight, but the mics, Boogie mics, was really freaking amazing in the first set. Yeah, I think this was a great show. Where do you guys land on this one? Kev, why don't we start with you and just go down the three of you on this?
I got this as an A. I felt like they were inspired. They did Mound. They nailed the Mound, which is, I would assume, a difficult song, listening to it to play and to not play it for however long they had done it. The encore, we got the Antelope that night, right, for the encore.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's definitely an A for me. It was one of the better shows of the summer. And if there's 19 shows, then it is definitely one of the top 6, 7.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that Carini's going to be another Final Four, perhaps. Definitely a Elite 8.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe getting into the Final Four.
Yeah, I mean, 2 huge highlights from this show are that Mike's Boogie On and the drop back into Mike's was just incredible. And then that Carini is, like, since San Francisco, the best Carini since that encore in San Francisco easily. So I definitely have it. I have it kind of on that cusp, A+, S-. I'd put it as an A+ though before I'd put it in the S tier, but it's one of my favorite shows from tour.
What do you think, JW?
Yeah, you guys are right. I will say that this was excellent. This was just so much fun to be at, and the set list really flowed well for me. My wife absolutely loved her 2 favorite songs are Boogie On, Reggae Woman, and Mike's, with a raging Weekapog at the end. So she gets the mics, then they play Boogie On, and she's like, they're playing Boogie On. She knows the Weekapog is coming. So like we were kind of freaking out the first half of that set, and then I thought they were going to be done with the first at About to Run, and then they squeezed that fluff head in, which they played very, very well. And I really liked the second set. I would have this probably around the same. I might fluff it a little bit more because I was there and put it in the S category. But maybe that's a half a grade higher because of my
attendance
being there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's definitely at the cusp. I think it fits nicely at the top of A. It's ironic though, as great as that Mike's with the Boogie was, it wasn't even the best Mike's of the tour. Although having the hydrogen, I ended up wishing I got the hydrogen at MSG. I just, at this point, I'm a traditional groove stan. I think that's the ideal way to get it, but
always.
So would you like to see Simple put back in there then? Are you like that kind of?
No, I can't stand when they break up. I like a straight pure Mike's hydrogen pog, to be honest with you. This one worked because they threw that Boogie On in there, and I was a little upset. I was like, oh man, they're gonna mess it up now. They're gonna do this weird, like we might not even get back into it. But when they drop back into Mike's instead of dropping into hydrogen or even dropping into pog, I was like, oh shit, this is like, yes, dude, like come back into this Mike's and then play it through, which was really cool and a unique version of it. But I'm a purist. Like I like my Mike's with my hydrogen with my pog in a row. Like I don't like the simples and the other bullshit they put in there sometimes.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I haven't always been like that. I used to like when they do the weird stuff, but as of late, I've definitely come back to that purist. I kind of felt I was listening to night 6 of MSG today, going back and listening to it, and I thought that Mike's Jam was phenomenal. And like, if I was being hyper picky, the only thing I didn't love about it was I kind of wished that huge second jam then, climaxed again and went back to a hydrogen. But, that's just a personal preference. It doesn't mean shit. So now let's get into the Skinny. You're going to start us off on all of these, I think.
Oh, great.
to make up for.
With a fresh beer. Let's go.
It's vodka lemonade. It's evening.
Yes.
Perfect. Even better.
So I'll give you the highlights though, real quick. Night 1 of MSG. The big thing was that Wave of Hope in the 2 spot. I think everybody had gotten used to these really short song first sets going through the all tour. It was they didn't really take anything out for walks on the first set most of tour, and they get a 21-minute Wave of Hope in the 2 spot. I think really set the stage well for the rest of the run. And then the Ruby Waves and the Plasma into Simple in the second set was great, and then that melt. I mean, that melt was awesome. So where are you at with this one, Skinny?
All right, so like off the top, I'm gonna go A to like cusp S, and it's only because I would give it an S. I'm gonna talk about the negative first, which is
a tendency to do that.
I have a tendency to do this. Like the more to open up the second set, I just was like, I literally was like, I turned to my wife and was like, what the fuck? Like, but then, strongly covered with Ruby Waves, Plasma, Simple. But all right, the first set, that Wave of Hope and Cities, the Cities, if you haven't listened to that, like just being in the house for that's Cities. And we were in section 117. So you have that direct line across from the garden to see exactly what they're doing. Oh my God, that was a lot of fun. I just thought the set was really weird, but it was also really tight. The free is really short, but it was really good. And Brian and Robert brought it down, but it's only like a 3-minute bring down and then a really sick stash and then a My Soul. I don't think I've ever seen a My Soul to end a first set. So
it's a fun way to end a set. I mean, it's a fun bluesy dance party.
Yeah, and I just was like, oh, well, if this is the way they're going to continue, then, I was saying we're in for it, but then they opened up with more. And I'm just like, okay, I understand their choices, but so that I would just put this at I'd put it at an A, but like cusp S just because of that Wave of Hope Cities. That actually, when you're talking about that Jam of the Year bracket summer bracket, this might be a very strong like semi-finalist, I would say.
Yeah, I think it certainly can. I think there were really good segues in there too. It's hard for me because I feel like that Philly Night 2 is like neck and neck with it, and I think we were talking about that one being cusp too. So I don't really know on what side of this it should go, but I have
MSG1 as my show of the tour.
Oh, really?
Holy shit. All right. Well, I just proved myself right.
So you want to go low S then since he was on cusp?
I don't know. I'm a solid A on this.
Yeah.
I'm a lot like the evening song to open. I think was an interesting throwback to one of the New Year's, I think
2018, I think, or 19. It was one of those.
One of those. So I think that was in
song.
Why? Because you're always in the darkness, Tim. Come to the light.
I didn't think it was a killer, but it matched with the more in the second set. But then after that, there's. What do you hate Mountains in the Mist in the second?
No, I love Mountains.
Right.
Like
so
Mountains, that's not what I was. The good times, bad times to close. I haven't seen one of those in a while.
Yeah, I just think it's a very good show. I just don't think it's quite.
I just don't think Evening Song is an MSG run opener. Like, what the hell is he doing there? Like,
I don't done it twice now, which is interesting.
He's trolling your ass.
I know he is because he watches the show and he's like, "Fuck you, look." Gonna get evening.
No,
that was the song Mike was gonna mention.
It's for everybody. It's for everybody who doesn't want to pay nugs. They get the first song free. So Trey did more to open the second set just to fuck with everybody. You want more? Hey,
I'll take more over Evening Song to start the whole run, though. I think that is. Well, all right. It was a great
Well, wait
show.
a minute. Nobody mentioned this, by the way. Before we put the final ranking on this, like, what about the split? Doesn't the split kind of save that from tearing up over? And listen, I can't quantify what I'm saying. I'm saying that split was absolutely out of control. And
I think the melt is what pushes it up into S tier, honestly.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Because I really think we didn't talk about that enough. I mean, you guys.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the 3 highlights from this show were the My Soul to close that first set, the Melt to close that second set, and the Good Times, Bad Times in that encore. I mean, to me, those were that was what made that show, but I don't think that puts it in an S. I think I'm with J Dub. I think it's an A show. Like, I think you need a little bit more in this thing, a little bit more in this show to bump it into that S category. But
yeah,
stop saying more.
Fine.
What's doing the heavy lifting here is
I'll tell you what's bringing it down is that fucking more opener for the second set.
I know, but the Ruby Waves Plasma Simple was 45 minutes of really fucking good jamming. And you know what? I usually think that Plasma is a set killer, and like Trey drops in a Plasma when maybe he doesn't know what to do. Like some of the entries into Plasma feel a little awkward. And I was thinking that as I'm like, Plasma, like this might kill it. But then they absolutely destroyed this version. And then the Simple after it. So for me, the show is defined by that. Ruby Waves, Plasma Simple, and then A Wave of Hope Cities, which is why, that this is a solid A.
All right. Well, I think we're there. We got it. Right. So let's move on to night two.
I just want to say, I appreciate
anybody else.
No, but I appreciate that you look at it that way as an A, because I look at the more Ruby Waves as like that kills it for me. Like I look at the Split the Soul and the Good Times as what saved it for me. But I like that. I like having different viewing opinions on why we come to an A. I like that.
All right.
All right. Well, MSG Night 2 is a weird fucking first set, to put it lightly. I think the Sugar Shack horn or Sugar Shack Evolve horn was a very weird. Oh no, Bug. It got weird because it was Bug. So yeah, Jovi requesting Bug. So Jovi must have an inside line with Bella, but the Bug Sugar Shack Evolve horn just destroyed this first set. I think, although the Disease in the 2 spot was again a nice exploratory jam in the first set, which was great. The Fuego, though, this is another one of those big time jams that I think is going to do really well in the summer bracket.
And we got Vikings.
And the Vikings returned. That was the first note. I didn't write any note about like the intricacies of the jams or anything. It was like Vikings return ! I'm so excited.
It's not just the Vikings though. It's the girl levitating is the other part of the Vikings. Like you have to have both parts of them, and they got them both in there. And I think they even did an extra line on the girl levitating because they missed them in the last 2 shows. So
wait, somebody let Brendan back? Oh, hey, Brendan. I didn't realize we let you back in.
glad you decided to spend some time with us.
Brendan's what I love about Fish fans. Like, this band fucking sucks, but I'm going to watch an 1.5 podcast talking about it.
I'm just here to bitch.
By the way, Brendan, Fucktards has been canceled. Fucktards.
All right,
Good
so
Lord.
Skinny, where do you want to put night 2 so we can disagree or agree with you?
I mean, my immediate is I'm gonna put it all the way at the bottom, and here's why.
All the way, like Wilmington
all the
level.
way, all the way.
Whoa,
Yeah, all the way, and here's why. And you can disagree with. I hope it gets moved up. I'm just saying. Let me talk about the 3 great parts.
Okay.
Moon Age Daydream to close that first. They were like, "Holy shit, what the fuck did we do?" But they crushed that Moon Age.
They did. Great rock and roll, just straight up rock band.
Right. I don't want to talk about the Wedge. The Wedge was well played, but it was like executed fine. But then the Fuego is just ridiculous. I mean, you can pontificate that about, you just listen to it. It's really good. I was in the house and it was great. But the 2001 was just like, there were so many roars in that crowd, and you guys have been to MSG. When you're in MSG and the crowd roars like that, it's like a different feeling. So I want to like bump it up a lot just because of the 2001.
Wait, you're confusing the shit out of me, Skinny, because you're like, it's the bottom of the barrel, but I want to bump it up a lot.
Okay, so now.
But he flipped it. He's starting with the good this time instead of starting with the bad.
Right. Okay.
A huge fuck up. So like, all right, now I'll bring it down to where everybody can understand. Like even though it was executed well, I didn't think that like the dogs was a really good choice out of that 2-hole. I love the disease. I thought I thought the dogs was like a bad choice. And then they do, the thing for Jovi, that little girl. That's great. I have 2 kids. It's amazing, but like I didn't want to hear a bug there. Like Sugar Shack. I know Sugar Shack was, by the way, coming in at 5:55. So I think they did that on purpose. That was really, as a Sugar Shack, really well executed, but terrible there. Then Evolve, then Horn, then Foam, and then I think they realized the damage that they had done. So I can't bring them back. I can't bring them back anywhere. I can't.
I'm going to summarize what you're saying. You're saying it's a really good second set and an atrocious first set.
Yeah.
And the second set wasn't enough to save the first set.
Yes.
Right?
I went with telling everybody, like, I can't. Sometimes I have a hard time with this because I was there and I have a hard time like expressing the good and the bad.
Shitting where you live,
right? Like, I go see this band. It's like, what, you hate them? Like, well, no.
I got to point out that Crackling Rose though, because that was a really cool moment. I think that helps bump it up a little bit.
Sure.
And I think that Fuego too. It wasn't the best Fuego, I think, ever, but it was, I think, a very strong jam. And so I agree with you that it's low, but I don't think I can put it at Wilmington because it was considerably better than Wilmington. I think it's around Alabama,
and
maybe like here.
Right. And Tim, I did say bring it up a little bit because I'm just gonna, like, there were certain things in that first set that like can't bring it up too far.
Yeah, no, I got you. I hear you.
Skinny's
I want to know what you guys are going to put above. There's only one show I see that is up. I don't know. You guys put MSG1 as an A, and I don't see what you have above that to put as an F.
said cusp, A-S. I said cusp.
Well, you'll
let's keep moving.
Kev. Yeah.
Let's go MSG 9-3. We actually should probably pick it up a little bit. We're going on 2 hours.
Sweet. We'll be here all night.
Yeah. This one had a very great set of segues from the bag into my friend into Jin. Had another really good llama, an awesome Golgi to close out the first set. Second set, life-saving gun. Didn't go all the way there, but had some really nice moments for a debut.
It rounded third. Yeah,
it was close. It was close. And overall, I think it was a pretty strong song. And Isabella was another big highlight in the encore.
Except for that second set mid Lonely Trip, Frankie says, like getting those 2 back-to-back was a little rough in that thing. And I think this night's first set, like you said, Skinny, compared to the night before's first set, was heads above. Like this is the first set like you want to see, right? Like this is where it kind of, like, that Jen out of My Friend was fantastic. That theme was good. That llama shredded. Kev's point, I don't think they knew what to do there, so he played 2 because that kind of seems to be his kind of go-to song when they're not quite sure where to go with that.
It was over 10 minutes.
Yeah, it jammed the shit out of it. It was fantastic. One of the better ones. I'm pretty sick of seeing and hearing a 2, but that one made me go like, this is where a 2 is good. Like this is when it's fantastic.
We're getting a new hashtag before the night's over. T's bad takes.
All right, T.
Go ahead.
T, I'll throw this a S. And
T, we're not doing that. Kev's the only one that gets the bad takes. Your takes are great.
T, I'm throwing this a S only because of what you just said. I totally agree with everything. And wait a minute. Everything was totally executed perfectly, and I don't even want to talk about the second set other than...
Well, you got to talk about the second set, because that's what pulls it down. The first set was an S. The second set was a C. So what is the average of an S and a C?
No, wait, that life-saving gun was not a C.
I mean, it was... Okay.
You didn't like that?
I mean, it was okay, but that's not enough to save a set.
I had it as a B.
But then you roll in that encore, and Susie Isabella was a great encore. Like, I mean, that was a fun encore. That was great. So that kind of like levels it out again, where if you're saying
You better put it up at A then we'll say this is A cusp S.
I'm with T on this. Just again, I look at this set list and like, where is the point of the show where they lose you, right? Like Lonely Trip. I mean, I guess. I mean, I guess, and you know, aside from the Frankie Says and the Jaboo, like it's a lot of, you know, whatever 2.0, 3.0 tunes in there. But I really like Life Saving Gun. I think it's the best debut of a tune that they played all tour. I think it's I think it's better than Oblivion. I think it's better than The Well. I think the lyrics are better than both of those tunes, and I think it's got a lot of potential to be a.
You talked it down. You talked it.
Come on, man! I had it.
Right.
S.
And then fine. The also the encore, like T said, was very good.
All right.
The first set was really good. What is wrong with you guys? AC/DC Bag, my friend, Bathtub Gin.
It's because this is the
Llama
problem.
Tube Golgi for the first set. Come on, it's
The
like the
problem
first set
is-
didn't even happen.
The problem is the first set had a vintage of 89, and then the second set had a vintage of 2012, and they were
Right,
so
what's that,
far
97
apart.
is the mid, like
99 is where it came in on
Okay.
average. But the problem is, I think that they were so well executed and such a killer first set that they set all their expectations so high, and then they shit on it. And they could have come in.
I was hoping for an all 3.0, 4.0 second set after they did the first set, and they were into it up until Piper, I guess.
I don't understand what the like aside from the Lonely Trip. Frankie says in the, you know, towards the end, like, you don't like Sigma or No Men's. Like those.
I mean, it
tunes?
wasn't a particularly great Sigma. I love Sigma. I think it's a great song, but this wasn't a
The
particular.
No Men's was really good, though. I would say that's why I said A. I wouldn't even put it. It's got to be a solid A.
I think
It's got to be.
All
a
right,
solid.
all right. It's an A.
God damn it!
God damn it!
What night are we on now?
Four.
One.
Okay.
We're never.
All right, I
gonna
got
get
to.
back on this
Night 4
show.
was on my anniversary, so I didn't. That was the only show this tour I didn't watch. So
I had Night 4 as an A above where I had MSG3 as a B and I had MSG4 as an A, so I thought it was a better show.
This was Kev, I think this was you and I on the recap on this
Yep.
night, and this was at that point, this was my favorite show of the tour besides that Man show. I really liked this one. This one felt like a complete show, like they had put together a first and second set together that really kind of played well together and sounded good. The Ghost, the Reba, the Funky Bitch worked, the Timber. We got another Timber in there, the Broken into Pieces, whatever. Wolfman's, and then the Walrus to kind of close it out was fun.
Are you putting that up
Vegas.
because of the sample T? That sample that was extended, and
yeah,
I mean that set list for the second set to me is like, I wish that I was there for this show. This is the one that I wanted to be at.
Yeah, and then even that encore, the Wilson Sanity Bowie Zero. I mean, the Bowie, as Kevin and I talked about, was definitely a mess. Like they didn't quite land that one, but they saved it. Like what I wanted with that encore, especially after that show, was something that rocked, and that Zero kind of. I don't like to ever say Zero saved something, but like that one kind of helped in that ending, like give you that rock and feeling like, okay, thank you for at least getting us out on that. So
say Zero saved it. Go ahead. Say Zero saved it.
No, Josh would rather they would have ended with the Bowie. He hates Zero.
But you couldn't end on that Bowie because that Bowie was
No,
tragic.
Bowie was
like
a little bit sloppy.
Yeah.
But I think honestly, this was my favorite show tour.
all right,
yeah.
The Ghost Reba Funky Bitch Timber, I think was the best opening. That Reba is buttery smooth. The Ghost is 17 minutes or something like that. So they really started off. Usually it's the 2-hole that carries the load. This was really the 1 and the 2. Broken into Pieces, new song. That's a little bit low on my list, but that was a really nice Wolfman's. And then I Am the Walrus and the set. I think that is really cool. I wrote down they didn't really do a lot of like, especially for the MSG run, they didn't really do a lot of covers. You know, we saw a lot of different covers during the Baker's Dozen where they were pulling random things. Obviously, I think a lot of it was in support of the donut themes, but Still, there was, a fair amount of covers. I was expecting more really in this run. So that was cool. And then, 16, 17 minutes sample in a jar to open the second set. I think that says a lot there too. So this
little nod to the baker's dozen, huh?
Yeah, 100%. So this is high up on my list. This is
a little bit better than the more that opened this.
All right, so I think we agree that one is S tier. Let's go on to night 5. Night 5. We had a lot of good shit, but that Carini, I think the Cavern into Carini in the second set and the return of the Well into the Howling were 2 highlights of it. Frankenstein with the keytar in the encore with the surprise slave. I think this was one that nobody expected the slave to come out in the post, in the second song for the encore.
Because they were walking off stage. They were like putting their instruments away after Frankenstein and we're done. And then Fishman was like, we got time. And Trey's like, oh, all right, let's do this. So
this was a weird show, actually, if I remember correctly, but well played, I think. Where do you guys have this one?
Hey, can I say something? I want to ask you guys this because I listened to it today. I hadn't heard it. So the Well, the Howling, and then Trey was bringing back stuff from the Well in the Howling. Do you think that's going to be a pair, or am I just crazy and I just listened to it for the first time and I'm an idiot?
Well, we've talked about a lot actually where the Well would kind of fit in, like if it would fit in like with a Carini, because it kind of gets that darkness in it. So like, like My Friend, maybe like a Carini, maybe like the Howling it worked with because they were playing it in that. Fishman did sing a couple of it. When was it? The night before, 2 nights before, in the sample or in one of the songs, and he was screaming the Well as well, but it didn't quite fit in there. So I'm curious to see what they do play around the Well or what they jam it into, because I can also see the darkness part of the Well coming out in more songs as opposed to, because it really opens lame,
a lot of
like
doors.
Like the beginning of it's kind of like, it's happy and whatever, but man, when it makes that turn and goes dark, it is awesome, and I'd like to see that part of the darkness jams more in some of those songs. So it worked well with the Howling, and I think he's having so much fun. Like they have so much fun with the Howling that whatever I think is around the Howling or wherever the Howling is in the set, it always kind of gets those screams. And Tim has talked about the howls that kind of permeate through the arena sometimes when he sings it. So yeah, I think it could be in there, but the Howling is one of those songs that I think kind of gets tossed around a lot of things that can be. It's very movable with itself. The Well, I feel like, is more movable in the darkness songs, is which I'd like to see it more.
I would love to see the Well used as a pivot for the set, where they put all the blissful, happy shit on the first half of the set and all the dark shit on the back half, and put the Well in the middle. So you have your
as that turn,
right? You have like your number line and all your goofy shit in the front half, and then it's just like Carini and just like heavy, dark, rip your face off type fish in the back half.
Trey cuts the cable on the elevator. He's just like,
Did you just arbitrarily decide that this was a B? Because my top 3 shows of the tour were MSG1, Syracuse, and this.
It's so. What does everybody else have it? Because it is not.
I listened to it today. I would put it at an A. I liked what I was talking about with T. Like I wanted to the throwback to the Cavern, the Island Tour Cavern, Carini, Piper, Well, Howling. It's kind of hard to argue that.
So you guys think A then?
Yeah, I would have it right. I would probably put it as an A. I think you could get away with an A on that one. Yeah.
Kevin, did they fuck up the Gaiuti?
No, the guy was pretty solid.
See, I think night 6 for me was better than night 5, personally. Because night 6, moving on to night 6, I think this was the Mike's night with the second jam. I listened. I was saying that earlier. I listened to that again today, and that was just that was top level playing in PHiSH, I think. So for me, I don't know. I think the only thing I didn't like about night 6 was Back in the Bubble. If you took that off of the show, I think it was a perfect show.
I had it as an A.
Yeah, I have it as an A too, but you put fucking night 5 as an A. So now it's like
I had a night 5 as an S. So
you were wrong.
Well, wait a minute. What's Back in the Bubble? I haven't. So I didn't listen to these.
Great new Mike song. Great new Mike song.
I think I might have heard it at Peach, but I'd have to go back to
You
that.
You did.
Okay.
Chat, let us know. I'm only putting one of these as A. Let me know if you want night 5 or night 6 in the A tier, and the other one is getting dropped to B tier.
Oh,
oh shit! Who's dropping from?
He's just arbitrarily just
arbitrary. That's literally not arbitrary. That is.
He's asking.
This is
democratic. No, it's arbitrary that you gave them the two options instead of saying, "Dude, does one of them belong as an S?"
No, you're just upset because nobody agrees with you. I'm sorry, but it's true. Night 6 is better than night 5 by a long shot. Look at this. Look at this, Kev. You ready? Look, where's your support? Oh, there's Eric.
5.
5. There we go.
6. 5.
All right.
7.
I'm fine with either way. I think it's fine either way. They're both. I mean, they're right there. I mean, it's I think again that Mike's sand cross-eyed going away from the straight Mike's hydrogen pog. Not a fan at all. Like, I don't care that what they put in there and all that stuff. And then the cold stop pog to start the encore is weird to me. Like, pog is such a great.
That was weird.
It's such a great jam into or out of song that it's weird just to cold open with it and then go into a fluff head. Like, if it was reversed or something, sure, but like it was, I don't know. I almost feel like pog should have closed the set somehow and then fluff had been the encore. Made more sense to me, but
I still think night 6 was better than night 5.
You can think that. You're wrong, but that's okay.
I'm gonna and I love the Rex. When you it's funny, you're talking about Taper's Choice earlier too, and like all this shit that Kevin knows because he's a fucking savant, and Josh is like,
don't blow his ego up.
I don't care. He's a moron.
Idiot savant, but savant.
But he's already a savant.
I get so musically, I cannot hold it all together to be able to even have any opinion that makes any sense. And I just if you're on team chat and you want to move these around, you have every right to, because you probably know more than me. I don't know.
Oh, I'm gonna get shot for this one because I have night 7 as a B, and I know everyone's gonna stand the tweezer.
What? All right.
Well, I mean, when you're on Twitter after an MSG show, it's always the best show ever. So I feel like if you rank these really according to everybody, everything's on an S tier on an MSG show. It's like, oh, that was the best one. Oh no, tonight was the best one. Oh no, tonight was the best one. So I think it's fun to just sort of break them down a little bit more and talk about them like we do. And I think it's all arbitrary and people are more than, everyone's got an opinion.
Of course it is. That's how we started this. It's our fucking opinions and we don't know shit.
Exactly.
But
that's why I love this
know
show.
night 7 is not a B. I mean, the tweezer alone. All right, what the hell, man?
Well, wait a minute.
You guys were trying to tell me that fucking Fuego Jam saved the other night and made it all high, but you're not gonna say that this tweezer jam saved this night. This was
I would say the Loving Cup to Open saved this night. Tim, we talked about this, man, when you came on our shows, like this upside down kind of set, and I feel like if there's anything Bella's trying to tell everybody is they're constructing sets a little bit differently. Not every show, but I mean, I kind of wish I was there for the set, like the tour closer. I would have loved to have been at this show, not even for the Ghee Forget, but I would have loved to be Loving Cup to Open. These are the kind of things my wife and I talk about. She'd have been like, what the fuck is this? And how are they doing this? And we argue, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know anything about them.
So something has to move up to the S in all those A's.
I mean, maybe this show. I mean, just set. You don't think so? Why?
I would say August 1st.
I will say the Drift While You're Sleeping, the Everything's Right in the number line, those kind of kill it for me right there. I mean, that to me eliminates it from that. But to your point, opening with a Loving Cup, and it's funny, after the Taper's Choice show, they came up when we were talking to them. They were like, "PHiSH with Loving Cup tonight." We thought they were going to play a reverse show of going backwards, well, we did tonight. And I was like, that would have been epic if you both had kind of done that. But to your point, it would be fun if they had done something and kept that kind of going, that theme. And I brought it to these guys. Sometime it would be fun if they actually did a Weekapog Hydrogen Mike song and fucked everybody like that and did it backwards in a reverse order or something, like something fun like that would be really cool.
Right. I love that shit. By the way, JW's internet crashed, but
that's all right. We had a really good time talking with them, and I'll reach out to them, let them know that we love them and we appreciate you guys coming on.
Yeah,
I don't want to be rude, but I've been talking to you guys for 2 hours and my ass hurts.
I feel like I just watched a movie. I produced a movie here.
I can't wait to watch it tomorrow, though. You know, we love you guys so much, and
we appreciate you.
Really.
Thanks for coming on.
Don't have a pillow?
Piper had to get it.
No, man. Let me just say, if you aren't familiar with Stub Me Down, it's an awesome podcast you can find anywhere that you can find podcasts, and check it out. The episode with me is probably the best, so start there and then work your way back or forward. We talked about Dick's lightning round.
You just had what, a 2-parter drop today, didn't you?
No, we just had one drop today. Josh just likes to repost because, like, he thinks everybody's a hack, which is pretty true. You know, whatever.
Oh, he's coming back. He'll come back for the end.
So who is it with?
Oh, there he is.
We got him back for the end.
New one. Who's your guest and what are you talking about?
Okay, so we just had an episode drop today as Josh is loading. We just had an episode drop today with Scott Mitchell from Fan Designs. He's an awesome graphic artist, and he's created so many shirts and pins, and he's worked with Eggy and Spafford and, you know, bands that are on the come up, Pigeons Playing Ping Pong. And, you know, he talks a little bit about like that design process and also like what it's like to create pins and shit. Like, I don't know about this shit. I'm just like have a stupid podcast. And like, so he's a good friend of ours. It's an awesome episode, you know, as we say about every one of our episodes. So
well, they are all awesome, and I definitely think people should check them out.
You guys come back after Dick's and we can rate the final 5 shows of tour again and do another tiering with you guys.
Listen, if Tim or Kevin ask us to be on, we're like,
are you going to Dick's?
Yeah, I'm not, but Josh
Great,
is.
you're coming on for the after
show.
There
he is.
Skinny, join us.
I will. I'll come on to all of them.
Josh, I apologize for this, but welcome back.